Hey, everybody, and welcome to Plague Pals. I'm Bill Corbett, and this is Maura Quint. Hello, Maura.
Hello, Bill. So
And we're feeling great today. We have our usual little pre-show
such a
hello.
good mood. Yeah.
We agreed that we are just like top of the game, top of the mountain, sunny as can be.
Oh, it's
So,
it's just bright skies and clear futures ahead. It's crazy how quickly things change in terms of one's emotional state and mood throughout this pandemic. I feel like anytime I can be like, all right, things are okay, and we're moving forward, and I have a plan, and this is fine, and we can do this. I'm baking a lot. This is great. It's like just almost instantaneously, just kind of like hit this emotional wall of like,
yeah, very
what?
familiar. Like you can rev it up for so long, and then it's just like being dropped out of a helicopter. It's like, nope, can't do it anymore.
Seriously, it's
Yeah,
ridiculous. I feel like all of us, I mean, obviously there's no way to do this, but it would be so nice if you could just like take weeks off from life. Like not
yeah,
even just work, but just like, nope, I'm just gonna shut myself someplace. No one can speak to me. I'll do whatever I do, whether it's just lie in bed and stare at things or watch TV, just completely untouchable and unaccessible. That sounds amazing. And I feel like it's really needed
yeah.
more than usual.
You know who can do that? The rich. Which is
Oh,
why
is
we
that
need
what
to
money
take.
is for?
That's
I've been
what. Yeah,
wondering.
that's why we need to take their money and be able to do it ourselves.
I'm all for that.
Let them clean the hotel rooms for a while. Um, yeah, I mean, and it's so weird because I do feel like, and my wife agrees with me about this, just like there's a sort of exhaustion with this extended pandemic, and it was pretty early on, like we were
Yeah.
feeling it. And just over the course of the summer, it's been a real noticeable thing among friends and family. It's just like I can't justify why I feel so tired. It's not like I'm working a lot harder. Maybe emotionally, I guess I am. And, we're all around each other a lot more, exhausting each other emotionally. but but on the other hand, it's not like I'm out there, you know, doing hard labor or
Oh
anything
yeah.
like that. But yeah, there's just like this baseline exhaustion that when you break out of it, it feels great. And it's like, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to cook
Right.
everything.
Right.
I was just bragging on Twitter that I made these perfect Italian meatballs that I really like. I made from scratch, and like they were very handy, and we made a whole bunch of them. And I was so proud. But after that, I felt like, I guess I'm not going to cook for another month. That just took it out.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. And I wonder what it is that is so like, what is it that is exhausting us? Is it the unknown? Is it that like we're in this weird place where we can never kind of really get firm footing and know that like this is going to be what happens tomorrow or in another month? Or I don't know if it's like also the lack of social interaction, which
There's
seems
something to
really
that.
weird to me because I don't feel like I want more social interaction at all. It sounds terrible. But I don't know
Yeah.
if that's just kind of like how my kids don't want to go to sleep, even though they desperately do need it, that they'll fight it tooth and nail. That might be me with like interacting with humans.
Yeah. Well, do you need just a little more, and this is me totally projecting, do you need just like a little more in-person, less intense contact? Because here's, from my point of view, like it's all family stuff right now, which I love. I love being around my
Right.
kids, but it does get a little intense, like it, just the same stuff all the time. Now we're getting ready for school. We've talked about this. It's difficult because it's difficult. Like all
Mm-hmm.
the questions are there and everybody's been talking about them, but there's, what I'm lacking is like less serious, less, I don't know, just a little more casual, anywhere from like people I know a little bit and can have a conversation with, to like a guy in a coffee shop that I buy a
Right.
coffee from. Like that's not happening much.
It's not. Although, like I said, when on the rare occasions that it does happen, I like shrink from it.
Yeah.
Like I have had people like say something to me in passing on the street, and I mean, like really, it is like that kind of like, get away! What are
It's
you
like
doing? I don't.
mace. You totally mace them. Just like,
Oh yeah, if I should probably start carrying it, or although I'll probably get arrested because I'll just be walking around like just blinding
you
everyone I
said
pass.
hello to me.
That's not legal, is it?
That's a
Technically.
threat.
Someone come arrest this man and then arrest the cops for arresting him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Get rid of all of it. Yeah, that's how I feel.
Well, in terms of like the overall exhaustion, I think you're onto something. I think the living in what they call the liminal space, the unknown, like what are we gonna do next? What are the what are the facts for tomorrow going to be like? And of course, that mixed with the fact that everything seems to be the same all the time, as we're dealing with the pandemic. I mean, it's a real enervating thing to me that we are basically back in late March, early April in terms of like our progress on this thing. There's no
Yes.
feeling of anything happening that's getting better,
Right.
and,
Right.
and
And
that
no
might just
sense
be an
that it ever
American
will.
attention span thing or a me attention span thing.
Hmm.
The other wacky possibility I have is that coronavirus is in all of us, and it's just like it
Oh, interesting.
spreads so quickly. It's basically enervating our life force.
Oh, I like that.
That's a
That's good. That's
sci-fi
the horror
extension.
movie outcome of this, where it's like slowly going to take over all of us and like rearrange our
Come
personalities.
and get it, coronavirus. I'm done
Oh, I
with it.
like that. Yeah, maybe it's like an alien thing that it was like placed here and it's going to weaken us to a point at which they can come and invade and take over the earth. I don't know. I'm
harvest
just like
harvest our
spitballing.
organs. That's all it always comes down to.
Organ harvesting is just always a step away.
Bottom line,
I
every
mean,
time.
people leave that out a lot. They
I
don't really
know.
need to go there, but
You want
that's
to
clear.
indemnify yourself against that. um, put a lock on your organs. I don't know.
We did have all of that. Like, didn't the Pentagon tell us that like aliens are real? Didn't that like happen this year or something?
Something
But it
like
was so
that.
crazy that and
Yeah.
like there was so much else going on that we just kind of ignored it.
And then Trump yelled at some MSNBC host, and that was more important, I
Well,
guess,
sure.
or
But
whatever.
he was just trying to distract us from the truth. The truth being aliens have come here to implant coronavirus in all of us so that eventually they can harvest our organs.
My goal is to convert you to full QAnon by the
Oh,
time we're done with the project.
I here's the thing. I don't really want to like fall into QAnon because I mean, first of all, everyone there seems kind of terrible and I don't want to have to spend time with them in any way. But I would like to like generally lead my own sort of crazy conspiracy theory. But I want some power there. Like I want
Yeah.
some leadership roles. I don't have to be the head guy, but like somewhere.
You should at least have a T-shirt like franchise out of it to make the money with this whatever your symbol
Right.
is,
Right.
whatever your dumb slogan is going to be.
I want like a staff badge, basically. That's the
Yeah.
level of authority I want, where you can like go behind the ropes and like, and you're not one of the general people, but you don't necessarily have to like make sure that all of the bullshit that you're spinning is gonna like actually hit. Like you don't
That's
you're
why
not
that's why you hire people.
yeah, you're kind of more like just in it, but not necessarily
Right.
responsible. That
But you
would
have you have a piece of it. You have a
yeah.
piece of it.
No. I mean, I don't want to be just another believer. But yeah, so I think this is my new goal. Is going to be like some sort of conspiracy theory. I think that
Yeah.
alien pandemic, that's solid. That's going to take off really well. Definitely going to need some more prongs on it though,
Mhm.
on this conspiracy theory. So
It does seem like every new day there is something about coronavirus that is like, what? And I'm not following it super closely, but the way that it has mutated kind of from like it's sort of
yeah,
a respiratory thing to, oh no, it shuts down your brain and makes you talk backwards. Like it does feel like every new day there's some theory, probably bullshit, but a lot of them are, solid science saying we still don't know what the hell, how this operates and what it affects the most. And then things get spilled out about it and then they're taken back. And so it would be that would be another thing that would be nice, to not make it feel exhausting all the time. It's just like, we
True.
have some ground rules for this shit.
Oh yeah, I mean, like the first month or two, if I had anything come into my house, I was like scrubbing it because
Mm-hmm.
it lives on surfaces forever, and you have
Right.
to like, so everything was being wiped down and sprayed and stuff before it was put away, and now it seems like the surfaces isn't really the issue. Now it's really just immediacy of air in your
Mm-hmm.
face. But the way everything I've read has made it sound so like, no, they have to be like standing right at you, breathing into you for a while for it to really matter. At the same time, don't ever be indoors with anyone else. Like it was
Right.
very like, huh?
Yeah, well,
Oh,
they took some sample of air in a hospital. This is totally like me remembering something that I read, probably getting it wrong, but that the air sample in a hospital, they were very alarmed that it contained coronavirus particles, like that it gets everywhere. So
right.
it does feel like we're just seesawing between the science and the sort of fantastical here. And it doesn't help that all the models of the thing make it look like, uh, an
I
absolute
hate the models of it.
nightmare of a science fiction monster.
I've noticed I don't see as many of those like weird bulb things anymore. That used to be like every sort of story about it had to lead with that
Yeah.
terrible picture. And now it just seems to be leading with like a person coughing, or I don't know, like
Right.
other images they got. I don't know if they got sick of it or eventually they realized like people don't want to fucking look at that thing. They're not going to click on your story just to avoid having to see this
Right.
weird
Yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
I mean the original versions were some of them, they all looked like a ball, of course. Like
Mhm.
that was the nucleus. And then coming off it were either like little pine tree type things, or even worse, like little octopus tentacles. And
Yeah.
it's like, not, you know, not
It
a
was
very photogenic virus.
really not, really not. Not to body shame a virus, but it,
No, no, far be it from
of
us to do that.
course, of course, we would never do such a thing.
No.
But perhaps a good
Although it
makeup
was a
artist.
little fat, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. I mean, it
Just
was
could
round.
lose a few.
It was round. You can't deny it. But it could have used definitely some styling help. I don't know. Someone should have taken to that, and if we had to look at it, maybe made it a little bit more presentable.
Yes. Yeah, could have used a
The way
glow
they
up.
eventually brushed Bernie Sanders' hair. Like eventually they did. He got a comb
It
eventually, and
was
it
so easy. It was so easy, Bernie.
didn't take
That's
a
all you
lot.
had to do. That studied academic slob look was never necessary. Just little,
It was such a choice. I loved it though.
yeah. It did read like a guy who is deeply invested in not seeming that he's going bald. But
Yeah.
everything else I know about that guy, I don't even think he thought about that. I mean, you look at his suits, it's like, this is not a guy who is vain. In fact, I don't even know if I don't even know if he knows he has a corporeal existence. Like, that he's not just like a policy, a plank that walks around.
I definitely saw someone at one point say that he always looks like the freaked out scientist at the beginning of the sci-fi movie that everyone ignores,
Yes.
and like, but who's trying to tell you that that is to me the what he's like basing his whole look off of. I thought
Yes.
that nailed it. Yeah.
Um, well, speaking of presidential candidates,
Yes,
here's a nice smooth transition.
that worked really well.
I find it really, it's almost like an art form with me. I can just like find the opening. Uh,
Much like coronavirus, you just find the opening and you're in.
uh, yeah, I'm a respiratory artist. It is, as of yesterday, we have a Democratic ticket.
We do.
Joe Biden, I think it is, and
Sounds right.
Kamala Harris. Um, so you had some thoughts, or at least you said like there was an angle on this that you thought might be worth talking about today. I don't know if you remember, it was about an hour ago that we talked. So
It was a
it's
really long
it's
time ago.
pandemic time and pandemic brain.
Forever ago.
But
Oh,
just about
those 3 tries.
electoral politics and, being on teams and being fans and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole the the Kamala announcement has been really fascinating to me to watch and to sort of see the way people were responding to it and are currently responding. Um, there's a real, I mean, Kamala did not win the presidential primary for the Democratic side. Like, she was not necessarily the most popular candidate, and in fact, she did worse, I think, than expected. And there were a lot of criticisms of her, which some were, fair, some were not. Um, but to see so many people now have this like, just we're in it to win, and you can't criticize because this is our team and they are perfect and they cannot, we can't acknowledge any sort of flaws, is just always exhausting to me to
Hmm.
watch. And I'm seeing that big time with her. I don't know. Have you spoken to many people since she's been announced or get a lot
Just
of stuff?
Virginia, my wife, who is, I regret to say, over the course of the last couple of years, has become more like me.
You
And
radicalized her?
it's not me doing it. It's not me doing it at all. I take care not to do that. And I think she's gone from a more standard Dem to basically like, the whole thing. And I asked her today, even like I told her we were gonna talk about this on the air, and I was like, well,
Yeah.
why did you just kind of have like a
Sorry.
somewhat, I don't know, cynical reaction to Kamala Harris being chosen? And to paraphrase her, she said it just seems so predictable, and it seems like something. She said it was more about the process to her, that there
Mm,
was no need to keep it going for so long as a reality show, and that she might have been more into it a while back, but the whole who's it going to be stuff in, between the campaign and certainly the media turned her off, and then it turned out to be a not particularly surprising choice.
right.
um
Whoever
Given that
thought it was
she
going to be a
was
month ago.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think given everything, given that they released a short list, which I thought was all kind of distasteful, like it feels like a ritual humiliation to the people who are not picked, to me. But I don't remember if that's a standard way of doing it or not. But to me, it read a little weird, especially since it's an older white dude, like a really old white dude who's been around the party forever, picking from women who are mostly less known.
He had a binder full of them. Don't worry
Yeah,
about it.
that's what it kind of, the vibe it kind of came down to. It's just like,
Yeah.
give them the dignity of a more private choice. Maybe they don't want to be, maybe they all wanted it to be known that they were being considered or not. I don't know. It,
Right.
it seemed unseemly to my, you know, Victorian sensibilities. Just, if you're going to do anything in the back rooms, like the secret rooms of politics, don't make it like, Medicare for all negotiations. Make it this part. Like,
Right.
but I guess they had
Yeah.
to like put out trial balloons of like what comes back. I don't know. I thought that's what you had
That's
staff for.
right. That's what I was assuming in terms of why it took so long, because even like the sort of build to it sort of seemed anticlimactic to me. I mean,
Yeah.
like, it didn't even seem, I guess the length of it made it kind of seem like, oh, this is like a contest or a competition or a process, or he's going to give a rose at the end to his choice. Like, we're going to
Ew.
make it, yeah, we're going to make it into this like reality
Here
show.
you go, fella.
Oh, he's going to give a Victrola to them, play a, anyway. But then the actual like experience of it didn't seem like they were really building it up like that. The fact that it was going to be announced, or that it was announced yesterday, even that was kind of like, he
Hmm.
might say it today. It could happen. It was very random and strange to me. And I don't know, but I saw several people saying that they were frustrated by that sort of sense of drawing it out when it just seemed really unnecessary.
There's all sorts of things coming into play right now, and one of them is obviously, I mean, there's a desperation to get rid of Trump and to have a team that can take him on with
mm-hmm.
some equal stature. Like these are the presidential candidates who are going to go up against him. Excuse me. And I think everybody, whether they said it out loud or are pretending otherwise, knows Joe Biden just doesn't present, just does not present with a lot of confidence in this. Like he's like a 3-time loser for the presidential nominee. Like he's run
Yeah,
before and he
yeah.
sucks as a candidate. And now he almost seems to benefit from the fact that he's an adult old man nobody expects to get out of the basement during a pandemic. But
Right.
every time he comes out, he says something like, especially like racially, he just keeps like,
Mm-hmm.
saying these cringy, like stupid uncle at Thanksgiving things, even if they're not like the worst thing. It's just like one short of that. So to have somebody who is relatively more energetic and youthful and attractive and seems to be pleasant as a human being, at least on the surface,
Sure.
is a real energizer, I think. And that she's a woman and she's a Black woman, Southeast Asian woman as well. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just, it's energizing. But to quote the president, it is what it is. It's like she's firmly going to do whatever policy, portfolio. She's not going to stray from that. She's not going to go back to co-sponsoring Medicare for all like she did for 5 minutes in 2000, whatever it was,
Yeah.
17.
Yeah. I mean, unlikely. The only thing that they seem to do in drawing it out, from what I can tell, is float some possibilities that seemed so much worse that there was a moment of like, well, at least it's just Kamala. Like,
Yeah,
okay, could have been worse. That's fair. I feel like that's really the only sort of benefit they got out of it was like everyone went, oh, at least
maybe.
it's not Susan Rice. Like, okay, that seemed to be the case, but
I didn't know any of them, or many of them particularly well, except Elizabeth Warren. And it seemed like at some point it was.
she seemed out of the mix pretty quick. Maybe I was just assuming that, but I didn't get the
What?
sense.
Why were you assuming that?
I don't
Because I
know.
think I was too, but I'm not sure exactly why.
I
Did
don't
he
know.
think that he wanted a woman of color?
Yeah, that's just it. I'm like, I don't know if he ever said that or if I just somehow internalized that was
Yeah.
the message, that was the particular type of person that he was looking for. I'm
I
not sure.
kind of
I
think
did
I
discount.
kind of think he didn't say that. He did definitely commit to a woman, which I thought
Yeah.
was great. But beyond that, yes, Susan Rice, who I don't think anybody who knows her is like a super fan. I don't know. I
I
think
don't know much about her, but I certainly didn't see a lot of
she's
gushing.
bad foreign policy person, like the worst of the Obama era foreign policy decision stuff. Karen Bass seemed good to me, like a better choice than Kamala in
Mm-hmm.
terms of where she's at with policy. She seemed like the best choice, maybe. Um, but I think she got red baited like right out of the gate because she said something about Castro. Um,
Yeah.
I also never thought that was a serious choice because she's just not enough of a name.
Right. I didn't think so either.
Um,
Stacey Abrams was another big name that was put
did
around for a
she ever
while.
really get on the short list? Didn't he like,
Oh, I don't know if she was on the short list.
who knows what
She was
degree it
bounced
was?
around early on, and then I feel like she was cut out early on too
Hmm.
for some reason, but I don't know why. I don't have any concept of like what the actual decision making looked like.
Yeah.
But I mean,
And
I,
Kamala's made a little bit of a splash in the last year or two, not really on the campaign. I think a lot of people were wondering what happened to that version of Kamala Harris. I just don't think she's a great campaigner. Um, like Elizabeth Warren, not really, like not her core competency. But in the hearings, like
yes,
against Kavanaugh, to some degree against what's his name, the Walrus, Barr. She, she did some good
She's a good lawyer.
grilling.
She's a good
Um,
lawyer. She's very strong. She's very clear. She seems to be able to communicate very directly in those types of environments where you would think that actually wouldn't be too hard because they are sort of planning all this out. But then when you actually watch them and you watch what other
oh,
senators are asking, it seems apparently really hard.
well, yeah. I mean, so many of them are so terrible at it. That's the
So
thing.
bad at it.
Terrible.
Which shocks me every time because like this isn't, you're not walking into a situation where you have no idea what's going to happen. You know exactly what's going to happen. You
Yeah.
have control. You can write all of it out. You can prep completely. It you have a staff for that can be
Yeah.
doing, so
Well, one of the problems is the general agreement that, they take turns and get 5 minutes each.
mhm,
And that's become a thing that these, camera hogs want,
right.
you know, for clips and all that. Whereas the most effective hearings in history have usually been conducted by like Senate counsel, or like the
Mhm,
Watergate hearings were mostly like the real gotcha parts, the real were
right,
the lawyers for the Senate, because
right,
they could follow a line of questioning and keep going and not like, oh, 5 minutes up. Now I'm going to let this Yahoo, just like pick an entirely different subject to fuck around
right,
with.
right. No, that's absolutely right. And I think that's why she excels because she was a prosecutor. Like
Yeah.
she existed in that world and has obvious, clear command of it and is very comfortable there.
Hmm.
Um, but maybe it's just my, I don't know, ego or naivety and ego combined, where I'm like, I could do that. That's not that hard, is
I think you
it?
could.
But I don't know. Maybe I couldn't. I
I,
know.
with a staff, and especially with a couple of years of prosecutorial experience, I'm guessing you could very easily. Um, but all that aside, like what she is, how she was chosen, what she's good at or not. You did mention the whole like people are very excited about this
Mhm.
and wanting to shut down the negative part of it.
Yes.
Um, I gotta say, it's somebody who is really not into this ticket ideologically in any way. I get it. I get where they're coming from. Like, let's not trip over our own feet here.
Hmm.
But it's also like, well, who's we here? Like, who's, are we on the same team? I thought you said we could all go
Yeah.
screw, and you said, none of our policy planks were being adopted. So, like, are we on the team or not? If we're on the team, we are saying we want them to represent us more, and that's a complaint. If we're not, then let us say whatever we want. Like,
So it's a tricky sort of world to me because I agree. Like I totally understand the instinct to be like, all right, just shut up and like row in the same direction for a bit. Like I understand that mentality, but I also know that I mean with any, it really wouldn't matter the ticket. It really wouldn't matter if it was a Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren ticket or what, or AOC or whoever. There's not going to be any candidates who are just going to be fully out the door like, bam, got it, perfect, nailing it. This is exactly, we are just as progressive as can be and don't need any sort of pushing on anything and are just going to
right.
stand strong regardless. All candidates are going to need some pushing. They're going to need like people telling them that if we're voting for you, we need some things from you. We need you to actually represent our interests, which is why we're voting for you. So I think it's necessary to push candidates. And in order to push candidates, you have to be able to criticize candidates. You have to be able to
Hmm.
recognize where they're weak. And then you have to be willing to say, like, all right, this is not acceptable. And we should all band together and make sure that they know that this is not going to cut it. And you have to do more in this. And you have to be caring about this and you have to prioritize this. I think that's vital. So when I see that kind of instant, like, no, they're perfect. We can't acknowledge anything that is not perfect. It gets to me. It's very frustrating. I'm like, okay, I guess I should just buy a bag of peanuts and go go team, rah rah.
Right.
But I don't just want Dems. I want policy. I want actual
Mhm.
improvements, material, and so it
Well,
yeah.
Maura, you're not going to get it with Trump. You're not going to get it with the Republicans.
No, I'm not. That's true.
Checkmate.
Fair point.
Checkmate.
I should shut up forever, is really.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I feel like this is the forever question.
Yeah.
And I've been living it a couple more decades than you have as a voter. Just like, my God, this always comes down to this. It always comes down to this. Even when I wasn't quite as engaged in politics, I felt it, which is,
Right.
oh no, nothing, like, not close to what I want and what it seems like we need. But that's the only choice. So I'm going to be a good soldier and vote.
Yeah.
And but at this point, I'm just like, this is it's not an accident that we all always wind up here.
No.
And it's not a great conspiracy theory either. It's all right out in the open. Is that we have two parties who are beholden to big money in this country. This is not a big
You're not being radical here.
not being radical. This is
No.
just like,
This is
look at
not alien coronavirus. This
right.
is just straightforward stuff.
And so they are very careful to serve those interests in different ways. Like, for Republicans, it's a much more toxic mix of absolute servitude combined with racism and xenophobia and all kinds of retro horror shit, a
Mm-hmm.
fair amount of fascism lately. For Democrats, it's different. It's a less toxic thing, but it is still bad. Like, it's still bad that we can't, in a pandemic, get and we say this every week. I say this every week because to me um, it's the most obvious way of expressing this. 88% of Democrats or thereabouts, give or take a few points, want Medicare for all or single payer health care.
Mm-hmm.
More than 50% of Republicans want it. Total together is somewhere in the 70s, I think even in the high 70s.
Yep.
And yet our ticket will not go near it. Will not go near it. And any Democrat in power will not go near it, outside of the ones that have just amassed so many followers like Bernie that they have to let the crazy uncle rant on a Monday night of the convention and, trot out Bill Clinton on a Thursday night.
Right.
Like,
When's Kasich speaking?
it's just like, what do you do when that is so obvious after year after year after year? And it's gotten worse even since like the days of my first vote, against Ronald Reagan. It's just like, then I actually did believe the good bad dichotomy a little bit more. I don't believe that now. I believe in, pretty bad and fucking awful evil.
Right. Right.
And it's like, yeah, you avoid the awful evil, maybe job, but it shouldn't always be this way. Like, there's got to be a better way. A better world is possible.
It is possible. And I think what's really interesting is right now we are on the heels of actually seeing another way. I mean, we just had all of these protests that are still going on to this day. And
not according to the news.
Yeah, not according to the news, but according to the police and unmarked vans, it's still happening. And those actually led to several immediate changes and referendums and policies on the table. Like, there were actions that actually came out of all of those protests, and we still are hearing like, you just have to vote. That's all you have to do. You just have to vote. When we see that leads to the same fucking thing over and over. But these mass mobilizations actually have outputs that did not require anyone going to vote. They just required people taking a stand and being loud and vocal and organizing. And so I think that is just as vital when we're looking at the candidates right now. We have to be vocal and organize and yell at them and mobilize and make them care, make them want to do the things that we want them to do, make them, maybe not quite so violent as that sounds, but still.
I'm
you
open
know,
to it. I'm just
I mean, I'm not saying not violent either, just leaving it.
don't, please, for the love of God, don't burn a McDonald's down. Like, kill as many people as you want, but just leave the precious
I
McDonald's
would
alone.
never, ever hurt capitalism, Bill. I mean, I think I've expressed enough
Precious
that
baby
if there's
capitalism.
anything I care about protecting, it's capitalism in
um,
all forms.
yeah. Well, I am coming to the mind. I mean, it's kind of late in life to be starting to wake up to this, but better late than never. That really the activism part is more important, at least in our system of government.
I think so.
At least in our system of government, and the way that it's been, the political parties have leveraged it to basically two private organizations fighting over spoils. It has nothing to do with the actual, well-being of people.
Right.
Like nothing. Like for one party, the Democrats, part of their brand is being nicer and theoretically more interested in the well-being of people, and I think they are, compared to the worst fucking bunch of
Well,
criminals
they're very
that
nice
ever existed.
Republicans.
Yeah,
So,
good job.
they always look out for the best interests of Republicans. They don't want to like trot on any toes. It's very thoughtful like that.
Well, I guess what I mean is that what you were saying about the you got to vote,
Right.
vote, please, people, vote. It's like, yeah, I get it. I've been hearing that all my life, and I've always been voting. Like, I've always been doing what you say. Don't worry about it. But I also realize that we keep winding up in the same place, and now we're in a much worse place.
Yeah.
We have, a pandemic that we can't control. We have Donald Trump in power. We have fascism blooming everywhere, racism coming out of the woodwork, where it was never not existent, but it was slightly tamped down for a while, just by laws and
It was
cultural
just
shame.
quieter. It was a quieter sort of racism.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, how do you vote that out? Not through Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden is a pathetic, like, he was the worst. He was the candidate I wanted the least of that group until Bloomberg got in. And then it was like, all right,
Right.
well, maybe he's better than Bloomberg. So to the degree that Kamala Harris does anything, it's like, oh, somebody I would have voted for before Biden, at least. Um,
Yes,
but
definitely. I mean, she certainly has signed on to some progressive things, and it seems that at least she's willing to be swayed at times, I suppose. I'm not sure.
I
But
just
at
feel
the
like
same
all
time,
of them are willing to be swayed when it seems to help the overall cause, however
yeah,
they calculate that. But
right. No, that's right. And
hers seems
also,
to be in a more humane zone by, I mean, he's not some clueless country club idiot from the 70s like Joe Biden seems to be. Like, he
that's
just, uh,
I can't believe you would call him country club. He is a man of the people. He
yeah.
runs the train, Bill. Gosh.
Before he became Obama's vice presidential candidate, he was known as a senator from MNBA. I think I have that, which is a bank.
Oh,
He was just like a banks dude. He's really never been much else but a guy who, helps big money
that makes
and
sense.
absolutely disgraces himself in the, Clarence Thomas hearing.
Yeah, that was bad. Many, many bad things. The other thing too with the vice president pick, and I know that there's a lot of like conversation because Biden's old.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll die. I mean, I don't know that anyone's really saying it, but this seems to be the like, you could die any minute. So, maybe this person will end up taking over the office. But I don't know. To me, that seems like an odd sort of like I don't think Biden's going to die in office. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but that's I don't feel that he's necessarily that's going to happen. And so I'm not really looking for like who can step in. I
Mm-hmm.
also have a really I don't think all that highly of the office of vice president in terms of its powers, unless you are in such a place where you're constantly having to step in and split the vote. But even then it's party line. Like I don't know that any individual is going to be all that more influential than another. It's just not, and again, maybe I'm fully undervaluing it. I don't know. I've never been president. I've never been vice president. I don't really know what happens. Maybe there's a ton going on, but from the outside, I don't feel like it's such a huge position of power that it really has that much sway or influence.
I
And I
think it,
don't know that it necessarily means that, like, yeah, this person is going to be president. So,
mhm.
okay.
I think it's a great perch to possibly become president from, but you know, it's not going to work. It's not going to automatically get you there. It just puts you like right front and center. And if you're an absolute idiot fuck up, you're probably not doing yourself any good anyway. But I will say that it also seems to be very malleable depending on what the president wants.
Right.
And what your owners want. Like Dick Cheney was de facto president
Yeah.
because George's just not that curious. He's just
Yeah.
short attention span, willing to be told to do things by his daddy's pals. I mean, so he was an enormously powerful vice president. But you
That's
know,
true.
I think Pence is basically a manservant. It's just like he's
He
just
seems to be. Yeah.
yeah,
I
he's a
don't.
valet.
He really is. I think you could swap him out with just about anybody else, like at the sort of aide or assistant level within the administration. I don't think Trump would notice at all. I just like, okay, yeah, that guy, right? Who's bringing me my lunch or is the vice president? It's whatever, same dude.
His job is to keep kissing Trump's ass, and he knows it, and that's all he
Oh,
does.
yeah.
And it's just like, you toad of a human, you absolute shameless toad.
Yeah. I mean, the only one thing I will say in general is that I do think, I mean, I do think representation matters. I think that that is a real thing.
I do too.
I think that the effects of representation are not very calculable. I don't think we can know what it means, but I think it has vast implications for the future. If there are people who feel empowered because they see themselves in roles they might not otherwise have done, maybe that leads us to the most amazing. I'm like trying to think of like Gandhi or like MLK or Lincoln or like somebody to put on high. And every time I try to, I'm like, but they had issues. Like, who's my like
Yeah.
pure like good? But I can't think of anyone. But anyway, maybe it leads
Bill
us.
Clinton?
Yeah, that's who I was
The
thinking
big
of.
dog?
That's it. Maybe it leads us to our future Bill Clinton. I hope not. And that I think is important and vital. And I'm very happy that we don't have two old white men on the ticket. I do think that is good.
Yeah, and I think that is a lot of what people were excited about the other day. Like,
Yeah.
this has not happened quite in this way before. I mean, we had a black president, we had a woman presidential candidate, we had, a white woman vice presidential candidate, but there is this, and she's she's not plucked out of obscurity either. She's somebody who I think makes the Democratic base very happy because she's good in those hearings, and she stands up against some of the worst boogeymen in the Republican Party. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I respect and agree with representation or ID politics. I think it has a limited, I think it has to be combined with other stuff to
Oh yeah.
move the ball forward for the least among us. Let me put it that
Yes.
way, because I
Sure.
know that like people with money, people with power, capitalism, they're always looking to co-opt whatever seems to be getting some traction. So you
True.
see the Republican Party increasingly doing their version of ID politics. Like there's no shortage of Republican women, certainly not in the Senate, but definitely like in the governor's levels, in the Congress. Like
There's starting to be no
they
shortage.
have a farm team. Yeah, it's starting to be.
Yeah, it's a
And
newer thing for them.
it's pretty thin even with the Democratic Party, but it's a little bit ahead of things. I
Just
guess all I'm trying to say is that issue alone it leads to these weird contradictions where And just with even within the Democratic Party, you had this woman named Sima Hernandez in Texas running against Henry Cuellar. I think I'm saying his name right. She happened to be a very, like, Medicare for all, very young Hispanic woman, and Pelosi and company backed the dude because he was, you know, part of the House already, but he's vastly more conservative,
Yeah.
corporate. So you know, there's a whole bunch of things fighting each other at any moment. If you have like a theoretical Black or Hispanic Republican conservative woman running against a leftist white man, what do you do? And you can say, well, there aren't any Black or Hispanic women like that. Well, they'll
We saw some
find them.
races like that in 2018.
Who is that?
We saw some races like that in 2018 where,
Couple.
yeah, not a lot, but a couple. And then, you know, those were used as these like pokers at the left. But no, I mean, I think ultimately, yeah, ideology is going to matter the most.
Mhm.
But we didn't see that in Biden's VP choice. We weren't looking at, he was going to put in, I don't know, I can't think of Bernie
Oh,
Sanders,
no,
like, you know, it wasn't going to be something like that.
absolutely not.
Um, so in those sort of cases, but no, like,
I mean, the only one that seemed like she was being touted seriously, Karen Bass, who I would have preferred policy-wise. I don't even think he was considering Barbara Lee. Was
I
he?
don't think so.
I think probably because of age, to be honest, because she's not much younger than Biden.
Yeah.
So that's another level of diversity. But it does seem like if you rely on that and if you keep explaining things in terms of that, it has danger of being co-opted and turned against you. And I
Oh yeah.
think, I mean, the fact that over 50% of white women voted for Trump means like just being a woman is kind of not enough.
Not
It's,
enough. Not near enough. No.
I mean,
Um,
white stipulating that white men are still the real culprits when it
no,
came
it's
to
okay. We
Trump.
know you're much worse. Don't worry. No, I mean, like, you know, Biden could have put Condoleezza Rice as his VP and had representation. So, I
Oh
mean,
my God.
I know. Now you're really
Because
happy
now
with
that you're
Kamala,
saying that,
right?
that seems like crazily plausible.
I know, I know. I'm just trying to make you
Uh,
like Kamala. It could have happened. It's like,
I believe we have to work with two parties. Yeah. Oh God, you
exactly.
can see it.
Reaching across the aisle, diversity of different types.
And
This
you
is,
know what? Like the Beltway types would have cheered it
oh
so
God.
hard.
Yeah, they
Oh
would have.
my God. I
It
want
would
to
have been terrible.
I want to
It
throw
would
up a
have been
little bit now.
terrible. But no, I think, you know, obviously representation is incredibly important, but, you know, yes, it's not just a blank sort of check that you can write. You can't just say, well, Margaret Thatcher was a woman, so now women are empowered. Like, no, it
That's the example I hear all the time. It's like,
doesn't quite work. But
yeah, and I have to say, you don't even have to make that choice as a rule because of the lefty cohort coming up. And I do actually take some hope that there is a growing, mostly young bunch of candidates and actual victors in some cases of Democrats just working within the party. Even they're not even like going off to become green or, you know, DSA or anything like that, and they are, you know, from the AOC mold, kind of, maybe not quite as much of a, I don't know, a star out of the gate because she was kind of the first big story like that and was
yeah,
extremely good with media.
yeah.
But just, you know, one district over for me last night, Ilhan Omar,
Oh,
after everybody was saying, oh, she's, you know, writing her obituary basically because they're looking at it from the eyes of the weird DC ghoul pond there,
right.
where we're saying, yeah, she's got a strong challenger. She's probably not going to survive it. And it's like, but she blew him out of the water by nearly 20
So
points.
great.
And that was after they poured millions of dollars into this little Congress race. And Raisha Tlaib before her got an even higher margin. They were predicting her demise. AOC, they did the same, and she basically just, it was
Skated.
like one of those, those MMA fights you see where the guy comes out and elbows somebody in the first 3 seconds and the guy is out cold. It's
Gone.
like that was the level of fight.
Right. That's right. I can't even name any of their challengers, but I know that I was hearing all of the scaremongering that they were going to be gone. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they easily won, which was fantastic. And you had another good win, didn't you? Or am I making that up?
We had a couple of good. Yeah, I am not that involved or knowledgeable about what happens north of here because it's even more north of an already north place, and that
Well, I
scares me.
understand.
It
You've
just feels
captured more.
like
No
Game
more
of
north.
Thrones, The Wall. No, but
I
there's a candidate who won against an incumbent in the Duluth area, which is not, it's not the Twin Cities, but it is sort of a collegey town.
Yeah.
It's a pretty town. Um, and she seems great. She's Medicare for all, like
Awesome.
that sort of general new kind of platform where nobody is looking to nationalize all industries at the moment, at
Right.
least. But it's that the signifiers to me that somebody is taking the well-being of people seriously. Green
Mhm.
New Deal, Medicare for all, stuff like that. Reform or defund the police, however you put it, but taking that seriously as concrete
Yeah.
thing, not just, 8 sounds great or whatever that fucking thing was. Remember that?
Yeah. That went away quick, didn't it?
Oh, 8 can't wait.
That's right.
Every celebrity quickly got on board with that and then shut up about it in about a day when activists said, "Are you fucking kidding me? We have all
Yeah.
these rules already."
That was nice to see that shut down.
Yeah,
And also like, oof. Because that was DeRay, wasn't it? That
it
was
was DeRay. It was the
causing
blue
that.
vest guy.
Yeah. It's yeah. Yeah. I'm just gonna say yeah about that because anytime I see that sort of like corporatization of we're gonna co-opt a real movement and we're gonna put it in this little like manageable box and make
Hmm.
it not very effective and kneecap it, it's just infuriating. So it was really nice to see that go
Yeah,
away instantly.
died a quick death.
Yeah.
So I guess what I was trying to lead to, and I'm not sure I quite got there, is that in terms of like representation and diversity, um, the sort of left flank of the Democratic Party, which is not represented pretty much at all in the leadership and the powers that be that want to please donors, that flank is extremely diverse and quite a bit more so than the actual power base of the Democratic Party. Like
Hmm.
there are very few that I can remember white male candidates um, who have run around the country with those kind of platforms. It's either been
Yeah, that's
black or Hispanic or white women or men, but not white men.
right.
I mean, here
Yeah.
and there, but they tend to be pretty young too, and like we kind of need that as well.
hmm No, I think that's true, and that's a good reason why we need more diversity in general, is because the traditional follow the line opinions of white men have not really been so great. So we do
Mm-hmm.
need some fresh views in there. Um, the other thing, sort of jumping, but with Kamala, that I saw a lot of as well, especially from people who wanted to like shut down any sort of conversation about her, was this fandom thing where like she was being held up much in the way that like a lot of people held up Hillary Clinton too, as just like a super fan. Just I want her poster on my wall.
They
And
have.
yeah, exactly. And that is another thing that I see a lot in politics that makes me crazy. I mean, the team
Mm-hmm.
sports is one thing, and then the fandom where it's like I go to all their speeches and I have all their t-shirts and I like
Mm-hmm.
just purely treating it like it's like a pop star thing is so weird to me. And I maybe it's because I never saw that in my life growing up. Maybe I just didn't have a role model that like led me into that. But have you ever had like were you ever a fan of a politician before you woke up?
I don't think so. Um, with one exception, although I've mentioned him before and you didn't know who he was, Paul Wellstone.
That's right. Yeah. I
But I
remember you
think
mentioning him.
he was a genuine phenomenon to me because he was kind of almost like in the vanguard of the left that was saying the truth about the relationship between corporate America and what people get. He seemed he was had a lot of integrity. He was a very honest dude. Um, wasn't perfect. If there's a documentary out on him that is pretty good, that is very much in a fandom mode, but even that says like he was an impatient guy. He could be impossible. You know, he had attention span problems at times. He got into being like a hero. I mean, it must be vertiginous to be like admired by that so many people.
Yeah.
The last time we talked about it, I kind of forgot how much he was mostly a local hero here in Minnesota, and it corresponded basically with like the time that I first got here. And so people were making a big deal of this weird little guy who came out of nowhere and started doing these cheap commercials, and he beat a sitting senator just
Nice.
by force of personality, practically. But that still does get to something that is potentially dangerous because Paul Wellstone had really good politics. He explained it well.
Hmm.
He went off the deep end sometimes rhetorically, like he would scream himself hoarse, and in like times when you were just like, okay, there's only like 7 people in the room, buddy. Like you don't have to go there.
Oh, the
But
screaming.
but I will say that he was a personality. He was funny. He was a character. He was very short but very muscular. It was weird. He was a wrestling guy, but he looked like the absent-minded professor. He had sort of the Bernie hair. So he was a character, and he was quick on his feet. He was good copy. His wife was awesome. She was kind of a great personality too. But the key part of this is like people got into him for that as well, as did
Right.
I.
Right.
And like theoretically that shouldn't matter except in terms of like getting these policies forward. Like we're not
Mhm.
in it to be entertained. We're not in it to be to get into what they call a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a term, a parasocial relationship. You ever heard that?
I have heard it, but I don't know it very well.
It basically means when you get into extreme fandom, and it's usually with like an online personality or a pop music star or I don't know, just like the unhealthiest version of fandom you can imagine, where you
Hmm.
kind of like believe that you are friends, or even if you don't believe it, you kind of like
Right.
proceed that way.
Hmm.
Um, so I do think that the Democratic Party, or that both the politics in general, but the American brand of it that we've exported to different parts of the world that really weren't so much into that, is to extol the personality, the personal virtue, the great family, the coolness, like the
Hmm.
path. And it really, like, it takes your eyes off the ball
Oh
so
yeah.
much. And for somebody like Kamala, like, I admit, like, I think she has a sort of a charisma. Like
I think
it's
so.
kind of not very deep charisma. She's got a good smile. She laughs a lot. She laughs a lot and way too hard at stuff. Obviously, like she's seen herself on camera doing that, and somebody said, "You look great, dude, when you laugh and that's great. Like a happy warrior, fine." But ultimately, like it's got to be more than that. Like if you can put that to the service of doing great things,
Right.
okay. But if
Right.
it's just like I like her because she's beautiful and sparkly, or I like Bill Clinton because he's Southern and cool, and he comes from a place called Hope. It's like I was there. I remember that. I remember Clinton trying to charm everybody and it working.
Yeah.
And it's just like, look what he's become. This creepy ghoul. I mean, he loves power and money. That's what he loves more than anything.
Yes. Very clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I see it a lot, and it really, and I've seen it with Kamala, with people that I don't otherwise see that from, who like,
Hmm.
who do talk policy a lot, but then will get very like, uh, I was going to say fangirly, and I've had to reassess, but yeah, it's all women who will get very fangirly about like Kamala, like as something that is not a politician, but rather this sort of icon to look to. And that just, it just always makes me nervous. It just always makes me like want to grab a hold of something and be like, that's not healthy. That's not a good, we can't do that. That doesn't work.
Hmm.
It works if it's like Michelle Obama. That's okay because she's not in a position of political power of per se. I mean, other than, once you're wealthy, you're in constant political power, but she's not, you're not actually voting for this person, and you don't have to necessarily push them on policies, and they can just exist as someone that you aspire to be or that you really respect, and that's fine. But when
Even,
it's in office,
I was
it's,
going to say, even in that case, though, what are you aspiring to be when you aspire to be Michelle Obama? Because
oh, I think the perception is just that she is very strong. She's very self-possessed. She's very smart. She seems very personable. I mean, I think that
yeah,
she speaks to people in a way that makes them feel very included. I mean, I think she's charismatic, and she seems like like an inspirational figure. I think a lot of women, again, that I've spoken to who feel very strongly about Michelle Obama, they there's a confidence that they want to like to
hmm,
have for themselves as well, and an admiration for that self-possession. I think.
I think there is even, I mean, I think it works in all kinds of different ways too, this parasocial element to politics, to the point where Bernie Sanders had
Oh yeah.
so many people, young people, in that kind of relationship with him, even though, as I've said before, like I like of all the major candidates we've had in the last couple of years, his platform, his way of, his political aspirations, his policy stuff is what I most sign on to by a long shot. But I think they kind of, it was like the anti-hero, gruffy, like we don't we don't want a glamorous hero. We want this
Right.
gruffy, gruff old professor
Hmm.
who is, all about policy. I don't know. I don't know where the line is.
No, I think you're
I
right.
can't exactly explain it, but it's like the fact that he's mad all the time. I feel that way too. And it's like, so he as a
I'm also
personality is a
grumpy.
stand-in. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm grumpy all the time too. I don't like combing my hair.
Totally fair. The only thing, though, I did notice with the people who really liked Bernie in general is that, and not all of them, plenty are just like, fans and just did have that kind of thing. But for so many, it seemed to be really policy based. And I saw that primarily by the fact that he would get called out by his own supporters if he was off base. And
Mhm.
I saw that over and over. And I don't see that as many times when the person truly is just like a pop figure of
Yeah.
politics.
And he was like very mulish about not getting into personality or background or anything like that. Like he didn't want to talk about his,
Yeah.
his five favorite things to do on a Sunday afternoon. I like, and then there are politicians who just live for that.
Shopping for beans, buying the beans, cooking the beans, eating some beans. It's not a very exciting list.
Is he known as a bean guy?
Yes, to me.
Uh,
Could have been soup. I went with
I
beans.
like beans sometimes. I like soup sometimes. Um, but there are politicians who just love to do stuff, performative stuff, like I'm going to dance, I'm going to do a hula hoop, I am going to talk about my favorite meals ever, and like really like are eager to sell themselves as personalities and as,
Yeah,
the recipient of parasocial affections, because then you don't have to talk about the other shit.
that's
Then
right.
you get into like, hey, how come I don't have health care? Like I am paying so much money and I still, and that's just harder, and it betrays, your interests. Whereas if you can whip and nay on Ellen,
No, it's true. It's
all
way
the
easier
better.
to have fans than to have people who are expecting something from you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes total sense. Actually, this is completely not political, but now I'm just utterly curious. As a figure, have you had people who are like think that you're their friend just because they've seen so much of you?
I am their friend, Maura. I am
I'm
every
sorry.
one of their
I'm sorry, all of Bill's friends.
don't cut
Not you.
off the money train here. They think I'm
I
their
don't mean
friend.
you. You're
No.
Bill's friend, but the other ones.
No, I don't think I'm famous enough to inspire. Like here and there.
I have, and I'm not famous at all,
Okay.
and I've had it. So that's why I'm
Does it
curious.
mostly come through social media, or is it in
Yeah, yeah.
any other
No,
creepier way?
that's the only way that I exist really to the world. So yeah, it only comes through there. I don't walk down the street and have anyone give a fuck.
You're
No.
like you're like a pretty Max Headroom, aren't you? Like a better, less, staticky Max Headroom.
I'm pretty staticky actually, but yeah. No,
Um,
I've had to have conversations more than once with like, I don't know you.
yeah.
You think you know me, and you think that there's a relationship, but there's not. You're just been taking in me, in various forms. And
Without making it too creepy or awkward, does this usually come with dudes who are stalking you?
so it does, but it doesn't. It
That's
hasn't come. It's never been like sexual.
okay.
It's not. It has been only men, but it has
Where the
never
guys?
been. It's never gone any sort of lines into like romantic or
Right.
sexual or like or wrong in those ways,
Do you
which
feel
is
like that's
awesome.
because you nipped it in the bud, like this
I don't
far and no further?
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a weird one. And I find it weird too because I don't feel like I'm the sort of person who puts my life, like some people, they live their whole lives on
Yeah.
display for the world, and that's just like, and I do a little bit of that, but I don't feel like I'm doing it to such a level where I would think people would get like lost in my life or,
Yeah.
but
I think you're just because I know you from social media mostly originally.
yeah,
I think of you mostly as a humor writer and political writer slash satirist, but also like
political asshole.
a political asshole, like me.
It's
Like me.
the best to be.
In terms of like people thinking they're my friend, yeah, it is a weird zone, and it is mostly through social media, although we had very early experiences with it at Mystery Science Theater because
Yeah.
to some degree we grew up with the internet, like, and it was a very fortunate um, timing thing for us because all the
Right.
nerds who were inventing the forums really got into us very quickly. And so we had a lot of early adopters, but that also meant that they had sort of access to us in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm using the royal we, but it's just the guys who were in charge of the show at the time, particularly one of them, used that a bit cynically, in my opinion, after the
Mm-hmm.
fact, to say like, we're all in this together. We're all in this team where we want this show to keep on the air. Let's make it happen. And you've seen this happen a lot of times since with like, they're going to take this show off the air. Let's get it,
Right.
that was our playbook pretty early on, and it sort of worked. But I think
Yeah.
people took it as like an honest thing. It's like, oh, now we are all in it together. And it's like, and the wall that went up when people like tried to like come in a little more than that and
Yeah.
do some stuff and got lawsuits slapped on them was not right.
Got
Um,
it. Yeah.
but even like on social media now, like people will get kind of I don't know, a little too familiar with me, and some of it is like talking about stuff that I've had on Instagram, like a picture of my
Mhm.
family or something like that. It's like, I don't know if I want you to just say that whenever you want. Like, we're in a contract here that maybe you didn't understand and maybe I didn't make clear, but we're not going to discuss
Right.
my family on this other platform.
Right.
And the other one being that because we're known for kind of throwing elbows, comic wise,
Hmm.
comedy movies, people think they can kind of do that at me if they want.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
we're all friends here. We give each other shit. It's like, no. No, we don't.
That's a big one that I see online. And I've had that conversation with other people too, who are just, I mean, just if you're online and you're making jokes and you're being, sarcastic or a little bit like bitter or biting or whatever like that, a lot of people think like, oh, this is how I'm going to get into your good graces. I'm going to do this back at you. And it's like, no, that's not, I mean,
Quite
like,
the opposite.
doesn't really work that way. Yeah, like you can rib me if we've been friends forever and I know your intent, and like, yeah, then you can kind of come at me and that's sort of fun. But like if you're a stranger, I just assume you're an asshole.
Right.
Sorry if you meant
Well,
that to be cute.
I don't even like too much of that from people I know and from friends I know. Like honestly, I
I don't
think
even.
that is best used in pretty short dose, very very short bursts, and also they have to be at least a little bit skillful and funny.
Yeah.
But when you when you have strangers coming at you with that's the bluntest, like, well, fuck you then, it's like, oh,
We're
that was a
a joke.
joke.
I thought we were joking
What a
around.
funny joke.
Oh gosh,
Um,
yeah, that one is good. And I also, though, I wanted, now I realize, in case anybody's watching that has ever, there have been plenty of times as well that I've like opened myself up and said, please feel free to reach out to me, and people have talked to me and they've been very personal. And that's not at all what I'm talking about. That's when I like invited people to talk to me.
that's very nice of you.
I've done that at various points because, we're all miserable and lost, and we all just need, like, a lot of times too is that I have been in places where like I have been, I don't know, at a bar or whatever, and just enjoyed talking to a stranger because I know that I'm never going to see them again, and they
Yeah,
don't
it's a
know
little bit
anything.
of a container around it in a way. Yeah.
Right, they don't know anyone I'm talking about, they don't know anything about my life, and so there's a nice little free therapy element to that. So that's generally when I'm like, I can be that stranger sitting at the bar, and you can
Mhm.
kind of, and I don't have any impact on your life, and you can just kind of unload, and that's been really nothing but great. And I've had it in the reverse too. People have offered even to do that sort of thing for me, but that's not at all what I was talking about when I was saying people
Yeah.
being personal or considering me. I just wanted to be clear, since like, oh wait, I do invite people
Yeah.
to treat me in that sort of friend way, but
But not to come in and, start insulting you like artlessly.
yeah, that
At
one just
least at
seems
least do it
weird.
well. I mean, at least be good at insulting.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, now, I mean, maybe we can end on this, the fact that there is now a structural way of limiting those kind of interactions, as you may have
Oh
noticed.
yeah, I
As
just
of
got that.
yesterday, I was totally surprised by that on Twitter.
I hate it. It's so stupid. I despise it. This is now that you can on Twitter like say, do you want people to reply to you? Either you can like only the people you tag, only the people you follow, or everyone, right? Those are, I think, the options.
Yes.
And it's just so dumb, because what I didn't realize until I sort of said like a jokey thing about it is anyone can still quote retweet you with their
Oh,
reply. So it
yeah,
doesn't
that
even,
is a definite loophole.
yeah, it doesn't even, what does it limit now, other than rather than just replying to you, now they can broadcast their reply to everyone, like, and invite more people.
Oh, at Jack, you've done it again.
Why does nobody who builds Twitter use Twitter? I've
Yeah.
never understood it, but it seems to be the case every single time.
Well, I don't know how I feel about the limit reply thing. I don't think I'm going to do it. I think I've naturally stopped reading all the replies. And I used to feel duty bound to read all the replies to anything I posted.
Mhm.
It's like now I'm realizing what a way, like I don't have the time for that. And
Right.
like I feel lucky that people are engaging. On the other hand, I just can't.
Twitter doesn't even show me all of them. Like even the times when I've
Oh,
tried to, I
really?
end up missing a lot. So even if I attempt it, like, because sometimes I've asked for like recommendations or something, so I want to be reading
Yeah.
reply, and I notice they get cut, and I don't see everything.
What I don't like though is that public figures can now broadcast without getting feedback. And you could say that you and I are public figures, but I mean real public figures, like
Yeah,
mostly politicians, mostly people with power who should
right.
always be the least catered to, not the most.
I mean, I guess we just have to stand outside their houses more and
Yeah,
scream at them every morning, which I am all in favor of. If
that's
you
right.
have anyone who's a piece of shit in your neighboring area, definitely take a fucking trombone. And I'm sorry to the people who live next door to terrible people, but it's just a hit you have to take.
Maybe you should not live next door to scum of the earth.
Really should have done those interviews before you bought that house, huh? Should have knocked on those doors and seen who was there.
They're a bad seed. They're donors to Trump's campaign. Oh,
I'll do it.
Well, we should probably wrap up, but I think pending any complications, we are going to call this our last YouTube meeting of
We
Plague
did a
Pals.
dozen.
What? An even
We did a
dozen. Very satisfying.
There you go. Right
I,
on the curtain.
I will not lose sleep. I'm
God.
pretty sure it's 12. Pretty sure.
I don't know why I trust you. I was about to say I trust you. I have no reason
Well,
to
I
trust
assumed you did an
but
independent count.
I did not do that.
Okay. Then we are where we are.
It's 12.
It's 12. We're gonna you can play these with the sound off in our future things, which are gonna be audio only on some kind of a channel soon. Hopefully it'll pop up in the next couple of weeks. We just have to batten down some hatches, and then I will be fairly shameless in getting word out there. I'll also put a link up here in this, little site here. But yeah, if you want to play our past faces in little boxes here, the same ones every time, you got it. But take a look out for that. We're excited about going into a more audio form that is a little more portable.
I've heard it's called a podcast.
Yeah, it's called, that sounds about right.
That's what I've heard.
If there is some extra thing we want to do, this channel will still be here and we'll keep you posted.
Yes, if either of us get a new dog, we'll definitely do a video.
Oh, yeah. Or have special guest dogs or parents coming in.
Special guest dogs. Special guest dogs as parents. They can fill in the role.
If only. But until then, Maura, always great talking to you. Not see you next time. In the audio version of Plague Pals coming soon. Check your local listings. Have a good week.
Bye.